There was an elephant in Kenya, named Eleanor. She was the matriarch of her family group, old and experienced, the kind of elephant other elephants followed. In 2003, Eleanor collapsed. She couldn't get up. Within minutes, another elephant named Grace arrived. Grace didn't just stand there. She tried to lift Eleanor with her tusks. She pushed and prodded, trying to get her back on her feet. When that didn't work, Grace stood over Eleanor's body, just stood there, not moving, for hours. Eleanor died that afternoon. For the next week, different elephants came to visit the body. They didn't scatter. They didn't move on. They touched Eleanor's corpse with their trunks. They stood in silence. One elephant stayed for 2 full days, barely mobbing, just standing guard. Researchers watching this unfold had a hard time describing what they were seeing without using a specific word. Grief. But here's the problem. We're not supposed to use that word. Not scientifically. Because grief is a human emotion. It involves awareness of death, a sense of loss, an emotional response to something that no longer exists. And for most of the history of biology, the assumption was that animals don't have that capacity. They react. They respond to stimuli, but they don't feel in the way we do. Except the more we watch, the harder that assumption becomes to defend. In 2018, researchers off the coast of Vancouver Island documented something that had never been seen before in such detail. A female orca gave birth to a calf that died within 30 minutes. The mother didn't leave. She carried the dead calf on her head. She swam with it balanced on her rostrum, keeping it at the surface, keeping it with her. For 17 days, she traveled over 1,000 miles with that dead calf. Her pod slowed down for her. They waited. When the body slipped off, she dove down to retrieve it. Ober and over. By the end, the calf's body was decomposing, falling apart, but she kept carrying it. Scientists called it a tour of grief. The pod members took turns. Other females in the group would sometimes carry the calf for her, giving her a break, then returning it. This wasn't instinct, This was coordinated. This was social support for someone who was suffering. When she finally let the body go, she didn't just swim away. She lingered in the area for hours, surfacing slowly, moving like the weight was still there. It's not just the big-brained animals. In 2010, a photographer in Botswana captured something almost no one had seen: a giraffe standing over the body of her dead calf. Giraffes don't typically stay with their dead. They're prey animals. Staying in one place is dangerous. But this giraffe stood there for 4 days. She didn't eat. She barely moved. She just stood, occasionally nudging the body with her nose. On the 4th day, lions came. She didn't run. She positioned herself between the lions and her calf's body. She defended it, even though it was already gone. Eventually, the lions waited her out. When she finally walked away, researchers said her gait looked different. Slower. Almost hesitant. They used that word again. Grief. Scientists hate this, not because they don't believe animals have emotions, most of them though, but because grief is so hard to measure. How do you prove an animal is mourning and not just confused? How do you separate instinct from emotion? How do you test for something as internal as sadness? The answer is, you can't. Not directly, but you can look at behavior, and when you do, the same patterns show up again and again across completely different species. Chimpanzees stop eating when a close companion dies. They sit near the body. They groom Italianos sometimes for days. Mother chimps have been observed carrying dead infants for weeks, even after the body has mummified. They know it's dead. They're not trying to revive it. They're just not ready to let go. Dolphins do it too. There are multiple documented cases of dolphin mothers carrying dead calves, sometimes until the body is barely recognizable. In one case, a bottlenose dolphin in the Mediterranean carried her dead calf for several days, periodically lifting it to the surface as if trying to help it breathe. She knew it wasn't breathing. She kept trying anyway. Then there are the birds. Crows and ravens are known to gather around their dead. Not just one or two. Sometimes dozens. take all out they circled the body. They don't scavenge it, which is unusual because crows are opportunistic feeders. Instead, they seem to be learning, cataloging the danger, remembering the place. But there's something else happening too. In captivity, when a crow loses a long-term partner, it stops vocalizing. It becomes lethargic. It refuses food. The technical term is behavioral depression. But researchers who work with corvids will tell you off the record it looks exactly like mourning. Magpies have been seen bringing grass and leaves to lay beside a dead companion. Not to build a nest. Not for any functional reason. Just placing them near the body. Almost like an offering. Geese mate for life. When one dieth, the surviving partner often refuses to find another mate. They become solitary. Some stop migrating. In extreme cases, they stop eating and die within months. No one forced them to bond that way. No one required monogamy. They chose Italiano. And when it's broken, something in them breaks too. Here's where it gets even stranger. There are documented cases of animals mourning across species. A dog in China waited at a hospital entrance for 5 months after its owner died inside. Staff fed it. It didn't leave. It wasn't waiting for food. It was waiting for someone who wasn't coming back. A cat in a nursing home in Australia curled up next to a dog it had lived with 4 years after the dog was euthanized. The cat stayed there for 3 days, barely moving, not eating, just lying against the body. In a zoo in Russia, a rabbit died, and the crow that had shared its enclosure stopped eating. The crow had no biological connection to the rabbit, no evolutionary reason to care. But it did. The question that keeps coming up is the same one researchers keep avoiding. Do animals understand death? Not just as an event, as a concept, as something permanent. Elephants return to the bones of their dead years later. They touch the skulls with their trunks. They stand in silence. When researchers placed elephant bones in front of a herd, the elephants spent significantly more time investigating elephant bones than bones from other species. They recognized them. They responded to them. Chimps have been observed sitting quietly near the place where a group member died, even weeks after the body was removed. They know something happened there. They remember. So maybe the question isn't whether animals grieve, maybe it's why we ever thought they didn't. Grief requires love, or at the very least, attachment. A bond strong enough that its absence creates pain. For decades, science tried to explain animal behavior without invoking emotion. Instinct, conditioning, genetic programming. But instinct doesn't make a mother orca carry a decomposing calf for over 1,000 miles. Conditioning doesn't make a giraffe stand guard over her dead baby for 4 days. While predators circle, genetic programming doesn't explain why a crow brings grass to a body that will never move again. Those are choices, costly ones, dangerous ones. And they happen anyway, because the bond was real. And losing it hurts. Every day, all over the world, animals lose companions, partners, offspring, members of their group. Most of the time, no one's watching. No research, just the animal, and the absence of someone who used to be there. We'll never know how many quiet vigils happen in forests, oceans, and skies. How many animals slow down, stop eating, call out to someone who doesn't answer. We just know it happens. Over and over, in species we never expected. In ways that look uncomfortably familiar. Maybe they don't grieve exactly like we do. Maybe their experience of loss is different, shaped by different minds, different lives. But it's there. In the mother who won't let go. In the partner who stops singing. In the herd that returns to the bones. They feel Italiano, and they carry it. Just like Guido.